Hello, I'm just going to do a quick demonstration of my programming of the Midi Captain standard. In this case, I have it configured to change patches and some of the stomps in this case, the pedals that I have within those patches on the GP-200 Valeton. Just to show you this particular setup, I have that in, apologies, I'm getting messages here as we speak. I have that in page 2 of my configuration on the Midi Captain, and this is what it looks like. So I'm using SuperMode. To get into SuperMode, you need to do a few little things. One of them is download the SuperMode firmware, SuperMode version 4 of the firmware on the Midi Captain PaintAudio website. Once you downloaded that, and if you've put that onto the SD card of the unit itself, just start it up in that mode, and then immediately go into the SuperMode folder and start configuring the pedal. What I might do is I might just load up another file here from the unit, which is this guide, just to explain this. So the configuration guide, this is it very briefly. It takes you through the types of presses that are available on the unit itself, so the short press and the long press and so on. So these are them here, all right, short press, short up, short downs, long up, long down, as it were. And this goes into a bit more explanation of the fact that if you're doing longs, just remember a short down press will happen before the long on that key. So it may sometimes be more beneficial, and you'll see this in mine, to have the up, short up, as a option to make a change. It'll become clearer as I show you my program. The kinds of messages that you can send via one of these foot switches. You can send program change messages, you can send CC change messages and note change messages, and you can also send HID messages, which is effectively making your unit behave like a keyboard or a mouse. Normally mouse keyboard commands, right click on the mouse, left click on the mouse, or a keyboard command that may trigger a macro or something. Okay. Moving on, obviously that's when you're connected to PC. The other thing then is key times, how many times you can make the key do a thing. You can do this up to 9 times sequentially. So bearing in mind that I see a good idea there if you're controlling a DAW, your stop, play, rewind functions maybe. You could have that in or just using one foot switch in the order. So stop and play might be 2 functions that you have for one switch, or you might have a play, stop, and rewind as your switch function. But all of that in the one switch, which is pretty cool. All right. You get some global settings as well in here. I'll just explain the pages. You can have, it would seem, up to 99 pages within the configuration of SuperMode. In other words, you could effectively configure 99 different page setups, whether you want to do that by configuring the PaintAudio Midi Captain for individual song within a PaintAudio. In other words, you're setting up for particular scenes because you're bringing in a particular patch. That might be one way of doing it. Another way you could do it is you could have it set up for particular types of modes, whether you want to stomp mode or you just want a patch mode. Other kinds of things that you might set up for is you might have one page that is sending just notes. I have a demonstration and a video demonstration of me programming for notes as well. Just look out for those videos. They will be posted along with this. So you can do quite a bit with this. Suffice to say, 99 pages gives you an awful lot of configuration capability. Massive, in fact. It has a name, sort of page name, so you can name your pages, whether you want to name that by patch or whether you want to name that by something else. Bearing in mind, I speak of patches very fervently, very easily. Patches are normally sometimes associated with banks. You've got to understand your bank steps and what have you. I might show you that in my program. Kind of conscious on time, and I know that my batteries will run out on my cameras. So I just want to make sure that we get this detail in very, very quickly. You also have, so you can just name your pages, okay? Here is the two expression pedals. I am not using any expression pedals on my PaintAudio, not at the moment. If I was to, I would probably buy the PaintAudio branded pedals. Make a long story short, you doing a channel assignment and control change assignment here for each expression pedal. All right, for the GP-200, the Valeton GP-200, that would be 7 and 11. 11 being your expression pedal that you might assign, say, to wah, and channel 7 would be volume. Okay. The encoder is that little round black thing that's on the unit. This thing here that I'm pointing at, that's the encoder. The encoder, as far as I know, can only be a change message. I've not seen it for note and or anything else. So in this case, you might sign that. I know for the likes of the GP-200, I have this special little feature, I suppose, that's part of the unit, which is that you can, let me see, you can set up an individual parameter from any effects unit. So, and then assign it to a thing called a quick access parameter. Okay. So that quick access parameter in this case would be CC16, and that might be a gain level or something. Okay. All right, moving on from there, and we'll go into the next thing, and we just scroll that up. MIDI through. I would recommend you use MIDI through if you're chaining out your MIDIs. A lot of people tend to go one-to-one on the use of MIDI ports, which is a bad idea, really. It's not efficient. So just separate channels on your audio equipment. I have moved everything to channel 1 to make it easier for everybody to understand, but ultimately I could have used any channel. In fact, my GP-200 is normally receiving on a very different channel. In fact, I use channel 16 for the most part. Though most people tend to use channel 1, they've got all their bits in Omni and all that kind of thing, and that's just bad. You must try and separate your channels. It's a hell of a lot more efficient, and you can add more MIDI devices across the network. Now, in saying that, my way to overcome some of these issues, because I'll use this in a particular live environment, the thing there is I might use a MIDI cable connected directly to the device. In this case, I'm not chaining any keyboards or any other stuff in my environment, but I've also got these Bluetooth units made by M-Wave. Now I might just throw that into the camera here. If you can see it, whoops, sorry, I nearly dropped it. That would probably M-Wave, and it's called an SK, jeez, I can't hold it properly, SK7, okay, M-Wave SK7. Don't know if you can read that at all, but anyway, I've those which I can plug into my units, and they connect via Bluetooth and do the thing. All right. this is very brief. I want to go through this. This is display number and group number, display PC offset and bank, right? So if you're looking at that little screen, this little screen here, okay, what you need to know is that PC 0 that you see over there, all right, is my PC display value that you see here, all right? So this PC display value is effectively setting and telling you what program change message you're in, all right? I leave it on 0, so you could set your offset to 1 or 0. I leave it on 0, so I go 0 to 127, right? Point is that in each bank you will have, let's say it's bank 1, patch A will be PC 0, right? So if you look at my screen, so on the GP-200, you'll see I've got this patch called Hysteria, and it's 01A. And if you look at the Midi Captain, you see 1A. That is determined by these values here, which is the display order number. Okay, because I'm going up in banks of 4, I have got ABC4 configured, and my group number is also 4. Okay, so the group number assigns these two pedals here, this one and this one, what stepping they're going to do, which is, you know, jump 4 patches. All right, and that gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. And you'll see it in more demonstrations. So what I tend to do is the group number I'll assign to 4, and then my bank offset I'll set to 1. Okay, because I don't have a bank called 0, my bank is called 1, so you set that to 1. The keys themselves, so the foot switches, as you see them here, they numbered 1 through 4. You got the up and down for the bank assignment. I'm going to come to that in more detail because those also change the pages. So you think of those 99 pages, you hold down these, you know, there's a long press on these will change banks. So my recommendation is if you're doing long presses in terms of configuring your audio devices and or any of your MIDI devices and you need a long press, you don't use the long presses on those because that is changing the page banks on your Midi Captain in SuperMode. The keys A, B, C, and D right correlate to 5, 6, 7, 8 in the key programming. So the programming, the keys are 0, which is top left, and key 9, which is top bottom right. Okay, so they go keys 0 to 9. All right, and within those, the keys can have certain behaviors, and those behaviors are normal, select, and tap. So tap is, it is literally being configured for a tap key to change tempo. Select is where you would use it maybe to change patches. In other words, I'm selecting from one patch to the next patch to the next patch, so it only highlights that particular key that you have configured as you're going through. By the way, key and foot switch, interchangeable words, meaning the same thing. All right, normal means you would set it to do, say, a toggle action, you know, where the idea would be you program an LED to be on and you would program the LED to be off, kind of thing. So it's that behavior. All right. These are LED colors. Just to explain what you do in here, these are RGB LEDs. There are 3 LEDs per foot switch. The first 2 hexadecimal characters are, you know, your R, red. The next 2 hexadecimal characters are your green, and then your last 2 are your blue tones. So I might just show you something here that might be of relevance for you. Okay, so what I've loaded up here is just to show you, I've created this little Python program, and you can see you can use this to change colors. And what I've done is I've made it so that you can copy out the hex value, as it were, so you can copy that hex value and you can stick it into your LED colors. Literally just use AI to help you build that. It's a Python program, it's easy enough to do. Moving on. Short downward presses, you have a color associated with each press, okay? So, or sorry, your LEDs have a color that would be associated with each press. So remember that if you got, say, a 9 function key, you might set those for different colors as you're going through the different functions. That way you know what function you're in. Not a bad idea maybe to program the individual LEDs into different colors. I'm going to skip through the colors really because that becomes self-explanatory as you program this thing. This behavior here is the most important thing to understand. It is the behavior of choosing your patches, so your program change messages. Very important. I use these two, which is the auto bank increment and decrement, and those are set by the corresponding group number that you have set up. Okay, so now it's going to step up by 4 in my case. Okay, then in addition to that, once you're in that group, you're then setting your keys, in this case your foot switches on a long press in my case, to then change the patch value itself. All right, without further ado, we're going to get into my actual program here and start explaining this. Okay, so this is my page 2, which I am currently configured on. I am going to just switch screens here, turn that off. So we got this here, so we can carry on looking at this. Let me just make this a bit larger so we can get it on screen. All right, so what we're now looking at is the setup of page 2. A lot of this global setup information needs to come from page 1 page 0. Okay, so my recommendation is all the stuff that you see up to, in fact, and including your encoder. So effectively, in fact, even further down, all of this, for example, is essentially set within page 0. Okay, so just remember that. You can change these settings on the other pages, but treat most of this as it applies to page 0. Okay, just makes it handier, but with other devices you're going to have to change those parameters. In my case, I'm lucky in the sense that my first 4 or 5 pages are just for the GP-200. The other pages I'd need to maybe start looking at changes in these values. All right, moving down here and looking at the actual programming of the unit. So I want to just step through. You can ignore the rest here. Here I've actually set that encoder for my gain, which is the QAP, in this case the quick access parameter. Anyway, leaving the other global defaults the same, I'm just going to look at this ABC4. ABC4 means that my patches go, or my patch groups go up in A, B, C, D, okay, and so on. And then I've got 4 patches within that. All right, so that's what effectively that's saying there. My group number is defined by that number of patches I am going up by when I'm pressing these 2 keys here. So I'm going to go up by 4. I'm going to go up by 4. But you're going up by 4 from the set of 0. So I'm going 0, 4, and then the next time it's 4 plus 4. Okay. All right. So you've got to remember that. The next thing to note is these display offsets. I'd recommend leave your PC display as 0 and your bank offset to 1, assuming that you want the Midi Captain's interface to correspond with what you're seeing on your audio interface. Then down here are the keys. So key 0 is this key here. So this is key 0, that's key 9. Okay, so key 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, So what I have here on key 0 is I have 2 key presses, okay, and they're short down presses, both of them, all right, but they are changing the LEDs will be changing color, right, to signify what's on and what is off. Okay, so 127 on and 0 for off. Now, just to show you something, where am I getting that from? I'm getting it from my manual. So give me a second here. So if you look at this, all right, if I'm going to the particular patch that I'm talking about here, it's actually not that one. I think this is, what's it, 54. So 54 is my mod. So this is my chorus in the case of this patch. Off is 0 to 63. On is 64 to 127. So 127 is on, 0 is off. Okay, going back here. So essentially then I have particular color here. In this case, that particular color is effectively blue. If I go to my little RGB thing here, how do I get to that color? Quite simply, the easiest way to get to that color is to just go, all right, well, there's maximum blue there. Knock that down. There's my hex color for blue. All right, so nice and easy. All right, nice way to demonstrate that kind of thing. Okay, so each LED is set to blue, so blue is on, okay, and then there's a different color for off. And in fact, what I have is I have 0 and 0 here. So 2 of the LEDs are going to off with 1 LED staying on. Now on the top switches, all right, the 2 LEDs at the top are the LEDs that are first and second here, okay? Or let me demonstrate it on the line itself. So first and second here, and then the bottom one is this third one. Okay, now on these keys at the bottom here, slightly different. Okay, so I'll bring you to it. Okay, here's an example. This is key 5, which is this key A here, right? And key A, the bottom 2 are this one here. Okay, and oops, sorry, this one here and this one here are the 2 bottom ones, and then this one is the top one, and I'll show you how this works, right? So I'm going to use key A, and what I want you to, actually, I'll go back to this one here. I want you to see the mod there on the Hysteria patch. You see that's now off, that's on, off, and you see just the bottom light for off and on. Now you'll notice there that I had to do the double press on the first. The reason being is if the patch is already on, okay, when I send the first signal, it's on already, so the light doesn't change, the LED doesn't change, right? And I wasn't sending an off signal. Okay, so right now there's no NRPNs or anything like that been sent from the Valeton GP-200 that I can glean information that the patch is set in a particular way, right? So I'm not able to capture that information into the Midi Captain. Not at the moment. Maybe that gets exposed by both Valeton, and maybe there's a way to do it in another way. Maybe you got to write a Python script to do it or something. Long story short, this is the way it is programmed. So what I'm also going to show you now is now key 5. So what we saw there was effectively the first key, key 0, just to begin off. So it only has the function of doing an on and off on the patch. All right, so on and off, and you can see it changing the value as well in that screen over there, right? So you can see value off 54, 127 value on. All right, and then you can see that patch changing over there on the Hysteria patch. Okay, right, now I want you to look at the not the distortion, we'll look at that in a second. I want you to now look at my programming of key 5 and key 6. You know what, we'll do key 5 first of all. So in key 5 here, right, so this is key 5, we've got a 2-step here. Again, we're doing this normal, which is lights on, lights off. Okay, and we are that's our on, okay, which is a cyan kind of color, lighter blue as it were, and then this will be the off, which is pretty much the same kind of colors before. And apologies, I just knocked that camera over. I'll fix that up. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to press that, and you can see 48.0. It's off and on. Okay, you're all right with that? Makes sense now, doesn't it? All right. Now, distortion, just to show you the distortion pedal. There's a distortion pedal on and off, on and off. Now, I want to show you something. Just a point. Now, if you look at key 6, which is now this pedal, this B that I'm standing over, okay, or put my finger over. If I now do a long hold, okay, what I'm doing is now I'm changing that patch. I'm going to change it to a different patch, and you see there I've changed to a different patch. Now, there's something else I want you to know. On the one that you saw earlier, okay, on key 0, I had these downward presses, okay, right? Let me just line that up a bit better. We have these downward presses. But on the keys, rather, or the foot switches, where I am also changing the patches, I am changing those to up presses. The reason being is because if you put a down press, the moment you've done a down press, okay, the fact of the matter is, because you've done that down press, it sends a change. It sends a change, turns on distortion in this case, right? If I was doing a down press here, okay. So that's just something to note. All right. Now, I've changed my patch. All right. So I'm here on this patch at the moment. Okay. Now, this is something you need to understand. All right. Is that if you hold that way too long, all right, the up also now turns it off. Okay. So be careful of that. So when you're doing your long press, do your long press and just do your release then, and then you can carry on with your effects. All right, so I'm going to do another one just to show you 6 here. 6 is the same, all right, but it's going to change to the next patch. And what you're seeing is we've got effectively A, B, C, D programmed as my patch changes. Sorry, my camera's going off here. And that's really all I wanted to show you, just the fact that we are doing that. And that's effectively what these things are doing. So if you imagine that key 4, which is this key here, that's key 4, and that's key 9. So key 4 is going to increase my bank. All right. Key 5 is key 9 is going to bring my bank down. Okay. So I'm going to go up a bank here, and you see now my PC value has changed to 6. So look at that, PC value is now changed to 6. Okay. So now when I press A, all right, and hold it for a while, and then release it, then you see I'm on patch 2, or bank 2 rather, and the first patch in bank 2. All right. Now, you saw it went to 6. The reason why I went to 6 is because I'm going up by 4. All right. So I press that again. Okay. And now I'm at 8. All right. Now if I press this, okay, it's going to bring me to bank 3A. There we go. All right. So just keep that in mind, that when you're doing that step through on your banks, you're doing that, and that's what this key 4 is doing over here, right? So that's increasing the bank. And likewise, we're doing the same thing then with that over there. All right, so that's the first, I suppose, little video on how to program your Midi Captain. And look, I'm only just showing you the one program at the moment. There, to show you the select, actually I might just show you the difference between this and a select. Give me 1 second, and it might be a good demonstration to show you. I'm going to hold this down, and you see that 3 in the top right corner there. It's going to go down. Let's just go down here. I want to bring you to this one. So you see that there, that 1 that you see in the top right corner of that little screen, that is a page 1. So what I might do is just open that page 1. 1 second. Just throw it in there. All right, there's page 1. And if I go down here, as far as I know, I've got select mode. There you go. So there's my patches in select mode. And you notice, because it's a patch, or the behavior of the patch here, I only have the 1 key, right? So if you see right now, it's on 4. All right, we can ignore that. I'm going to just bring this up to my bank A. Press A over here, and you'll see I'm back to bank A on my GP-200 there in the top left corner. All right, and that gives you an idea of those, and that's what that is doing. And those are those first few keys there. And remember, this is very easy stuff. I mean, none of this is hard, right? So yeah, just program it and have fun. I will probably look at the global mode setup, and I'm not going to look at the geek setup. The geek setup, for all intents and purposes, isn't as good as the other two. Not only that, but it's a pain in the backside to program in either the text file format or in the little screen, because you've got to use this little screen and that encoder to program geek mode. And quite honestly, yeah, it's a pain in the backside. The other two programming methods are much better, and I would prefer those ones. I'm going to look at the other one, the global setup mode, which is the mode that my unit actually shipped in. But I'm not interested in programming that because I had initially just studied the SuperMode before purchasing the unit. Okay, but it's actually quite easy. So best of luck with it. Hopefully you got something out of this video. Hopefully it's enough of a demonstration to show you, and best of luck with it. Bye for now.